Data-related roles are growing 36% year over year, according to the US labor statistics. But most newcomers waste months chasing shiny certificates and learning tools they'll never use. I'll walk you through 5 early career mistakes that can keep you stuck and how to avoid them, so you can enter a booming field with clarity, confidence, and a competitive edge. Hello everyone, my name is Ruben. I have published 2 commercial books and helped 100+ organizations with their data stacks. And on this channel, I show you how to do the same through practical tutorials and smart strategy. Let's dive into the video. All right, the 5 things I wish I knew, and I sort of learned a bit of the hard way over the past 15 years of working in this space. The first thing is thinking that your job ends with a dashboard. Now, here's a dashboard here on my side. I didn't create this dashboard, but this is some of the things you can do when you have data. You can create all this nice looking charts. We have a bunch of other ones, maybe break down by channel and revenue and a bunch of other stuff. But the thing is, the dashboard is really not the end goal. You're working in a team, you're presenting data to other people, perhaps your boss and other stakeholders. The point here is to help someone make a decision. Someone's coming in, maybe a marketing executive, they're trying to figure out what kind of campaigns to run, and they need your help to make that decision, right? You're not the only input, but you're one of the inputs. And you have data, and you have reports, and you have dashboards, so you present those, but you also did help them walk through it, trying to help them understand what data means, why this number went up, why this number went down, and of course, what's your opinion? As the person who's perhaps most familiar with data, what do you think the company should do? You'll be able to share that with the person who's trying to make a decision. People might nod in public, you might show them the dashboard like what we just saw, and they might say, that's fantastic. What else do you have? And they may go back and they may be really struggling to actually really understand what's going on. What should they do? What is the data telling them? So that's your actual job, trying to drive towards a specific decision. Number 2, if only you had the right tools. Spend a lot of time talking about tools, especially in this channel. I mean, we have half of the videos in the channel or more basically tool tutorials, and companies tend to hire me for tools. So then, this can be a perspective that if you have the right tools, you can do anything. Now, tools do make a difference. If you're dealing with very outdated tools, I get it. You're gonna be limited. But these days, I made another video on my channel where I talk about that I would just take a look at data warehouse, figure out how to get data to the data warehouse, and then from there just build reports, even in a very simple manner. So tools are nice, but they're not necessarily the limiting factor. You're never gonna have the perfect stack. It's always gonna be changing, the company evolves, the needs change, so the tool that works right now may be gone in 12 months. So as much as possible, you wanna prioritize flexible approaches. So like a data warehouse approach is quite flexible, can scale quite a bit. The same data warehouse may need to change though, right? You may start with like a BigQuery and then you realize that, I don't know, maybe a Snowflake makes more sense. And then once you get to a higher level, you're really committed to the AWS world, so you go to some kind of Amazon data warehouse. But just assume that what you have is good enough and you have to run it to its limits, whatever that may be. So even if you're using something like a Google Analytics or like even just Google Sheets, you figure out, okay, how do I take this and push it to its very limits until the app itself breaks? Like I've done like Google Sheets reporting where the sheet itself just doesn't load. That's at one point, it's just too much data. And it's that point I tell me, you know what? I think we need to replace this, it no longer works. Let's find something more flexible. Number 3, you can do any data role. So the world of data can be a bit confusing. You have data analysts, data engineers, data scientists. Sometimes companies don't hire properly for them. They hire a data scientist, but what they really need is a data analyst. There's someone to build reports and build dashboards. And sometimes they need a data engineer. So they have all the way to create reports and dashboards, but they don't have someone who's actually out there collecting data in a reliable way. So you want to figure out the right title and from there specialize. So someone who is on a data engineer path is going to go on a slightly different journey than someone who's on the data scientist path. Or in my case, I work much more in the MarTech world with marketing teams, marketing technology. That's also a bit of a different path compared to, let's say you're going to specialize in CDPs. I've seen roles for like a customer data platform expert, which I guess is a bit of a data engineer expert. So whatever it is, you choose your path, you specialize, and then you build upon it, and you look for those jobs and engagements and contracts that can help you get there. This is really about being honest about your strengths. What do you enjoy? What do you think you can really build upon? Some people are very technically savvy, so the more engineer role, maybe even the data scientist role can be a great fit. Other people are fantastic at sort of like the people element. So you really want to be out there creating reports that may not be technically complex, but talking through other people, trying to figure out what the data means, working through how that means to a decision. That's the kind of thing that you start to figure out how your data role might change and where you can really make the biggest impact. Number 4, People only need the numbers. Now this one took me a long time to understand. I would create data, I would think, hey, here's a report, here's a funnel showing a drop off in the third step. Obviously someone's gonna see this funnel and they're gonna see, oh yeah, of course, third step, that's where we should put our effort. And I've been confused over and over again as that doesn't happen. People do not just need the numbers. There's emotional, there's political, and other kinds of biases that are affecting the actual numbers. Someone who's running marketing campaigns may see numbers that are showing the campaigns are not working that well, but they have budget and they don't want to lose their budget. So they're thinking it's not how do we shut down these campaigns, is how do we improve them, or how do we launch other campaigns, whatever it may be. So you always want to think about that logic, right? And a data role is really more part data analyst, part translator, part therapist. You may be a little isolated if you're in more technical portions of a data world, like like a data engineer. But even then, you're being asked to pull data, to do something with them, and there's some connection you're gonna have eventually to this more emotional components of how people interpret and work with data. So don't forget that it's not wrong. It's just simply not a black and white world where the numbers say this one thing and that's what we're gonna do. Especially if you get more into the strategic conversations, which I think are actually quite fun. There's so much nuance in how you actually approach those conversations from the perspective of data. Number 5, you can hide behind reports. So this is of course much more applicable for anyone who's building any front-facing reports, dashboards, but you may think that you can just create it, send it over by email or Slack these days, maybe jump on a call here and there to talk about it, but the report sort of speaks for you. And that's just not true. We look at number 4, right, where it's not just about the numbers, there has to be some explanation, some human element to that. That's one component. We also have to think pragmatically. If you want to move from a career perspective into more senior roles, they become less about the technical skills and more about the people skills, the communication, working with others, being able to engage with stakeholders. So if that's your aspiration, then you have to become good at those things. You can't just say, here's my report, it's obvious, don't contact me. You have to kind of go in and talk to people and be able to back up your data, look at it through different lenses, understand how it actually fits into the overall company strategy. And those are just soft skills. They're not hard, I'm gonna write a SQL query type skill. Now, once you stop hiding behind dashboards and reports and start showing up, you become more than just the data person. You actually start to become essential. In the next video, I'll show you how to become the go-to data expert in your company and the person everyone turns to when it actually matters. I'm Ruben. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.